Smart women don't just stumble into greatness. They choose it every single day. They know that success isn't random, and it definitely isn't handed out. It's built by the small, almost invisible decisions they make when no one is watching. They know that confidence isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's about being the clearest in their mind. They trust their own voice, even when it shakes. They know when to listen and when to speak. They show up not just to impress, but to impact. Success is not something that falls into the laps of smart women. It is not the result of luck, chance, or the occasional bold move. It is built, piece by piece, through intentional choices made every single day. Every morning, smart women decide what they will prioritize, and every evening they reflect on how those priorities move them closer to who they are becoming. These choices often look small from the outside, setting a boundary, reading a chapter of a book, reaching out to a mentor, but each one stacks quietly upon the other, creating a foundation so strong that no storm can shake it. Intentionality becomes their silent superpower. They don't live on autopilot, reacting to whatever the day throws at them. Instead, they create their own current and swim with it. They understand that their energy is precious and that where they place it shapes their future. Saying yes to every invitation, every request, every distraction would scatter their power. And they choose carefully. They choose based on their values, not their fears. They say yes to growth, to opportunity, to challenges that stretch them. They say no to anything that dilutes their focus or dims their light. Smart women know that not every decision will be glamorous. Some choices feel tedious, boring, or even lonely. Waking up early to study, declining a night out to work on a dream, spending time with mentors instead of staying in comfort zones. These choices are not always visible to the world, but they are visible to themselves. And that's what matters most. They measure success not by applause, but by alignment. Alignment with who they want to become. They also know that the right choices are rarely the easiest ones. Comfort whispers tempting lies every day. Stay where it's safe. Stay where it's familiar. But smart women have a different conversation with themselves. They ask, what will move me forward, not what will feel good right now? They delay gratification, not because they enjoy sacrifice, but because they understand what is waiting on the other side of discipline. They see a bigger picture that many never bother to imagine. Every choice becomes a vote for the future self they are committed to building. Choosing to speak up in a meeting instead of staying silent. Choosing to learn a new skill instead of coasting on old knowledge. Choosing to show up authentically instead of molding themselves into what others expect. These choices, repeated again and again, create a kind of quiet momentum. They become the engine behind a life that, from the outside, looks extraordinary, but from the inside, simply feels right. The beauty of it is that no single choice makes or breaks them. They don't chase perfection, they chase consistency. They know they will stumble sometimes, and when they do, they don't spiral into self-doubt. They realign. They forgive themselves. They remember that success is not a straight line, but a path carved out by resilience and recommitment. Right? Smart women trust that these daily acts of intention are planting seeds that will bloom in seasons yet to come. They don't demand instant results. They have the patience to trust the process, even when the process is slow. They have the wisdom to know that overnight success is a myth, and lasting success is a masterpiece, crafted one brushstroke at a time. In the end, it's not the grand gestures that define their journey. It's the quiet, powerful, deliberate choices made when no one is watching. It's the decision to live with purpose, not permission. And it's the unwavering belief that they are worth the effort every single day. Trusting their own voice is not something that smart women stumble into by accident. It is something they cultivate deliberately over time, like a muscle strengthened through repeated acts of courage. They understand that the world will always have opinions, louder and more persistent than ever, but their own voice must be the one they trust above all others. It is the compass they return to, the steady truth underneath the noise. When doubts creep in, as they inevitably do, they do not silence their own instincts to fit the expectations of others. They listen inward. They ask themselves, what do I truly believe? And they act from that place of clarity. Confidence, for them, is not an act of pretending to have all the answers. It is not the loud, aggressive energy that demands attention for the sake of attention. True confidence is quieter, deeper, and far more unshakable. It comes from knowing who they are and refusing to negotiate that identity for anyone else's comfort. It is the courage to be wrong sometimes, to ask questions, to admit when they are still learning. Because smart women do not confuse confidence with arrogance. They do not feel the need to prove their worth with every word they speak. They already know their worth. And that certainty gives them the freedom to speak with honesty rather than ego. They use confidence as a tool, not as a shield. They do not walk into rooms trying to dominate conversations. They walk in ready to contribute meaningfully. They are selective with their words, understanding that true power often lies in listening first and speaking second. When they do speak, their words carry weight because they are rooted in authenticity, not performance. They are not driven by the need to impress. They are driven by the desire to inspire, to offer value, to make a difference. Trusting their own voice also means they do not seek validation from the outside to legitimize their dreams. They do not wait for applause before they believe in their own vision. They do not ask for permission to lead, to create, to challenge. They give themselves that permission every morning when they rise and choose to keep going. That their dreams are not contingent on who understands them or who approves of them. They move forward, even when misunderstood, even when underestimated. They trust that the right people will understand eventually, and that those who never do are not their audience. Confidence, used wisely, also means knowing when to stand firm and when to stay open. Smart women are not stubborn for the sake of pride. They are willing to change their minds when new information or experiences teach them something better. Strength is not rigidity. Strength is the ability to evolve without losing the core of who you are. They do not view uncertainty as weakness. They see it as the birthplace of growth. And because they are rooted in self-trust, they can navigate change without feeling lost. There is a beautiful calm that comes from living this way, a groundedness. They are not chasing the highs of approval or running from the lows of criticism. They are steady because they are anchored inside themselves. They know that the world around them will always be shifting, trends will change, opinions will shift, critics will come and go, but their inner voice remains strong and true, guiding them forward. In every conversation, every decision, every opportunity, smart women bring their full selves to the table. Not the version of themselves they think the world wants to see, but the real one, the honest one, the powerful one. And because they trust their own voice and use their confidence wisely, they build lives not only of success, but of deep, unwavering fulfillment. Time is the one resource that can never be reclaimed. And smart women know it better than anyone. They treat their time as sacred, not because they are too busy for others, but because they are deeply committed to the life they are building. They understand that every minute spent on something unaligned is a minute stolen from their dreams, their health, their happiness. Saying yes to everything is a fast road to burnout, and they refuse to walk it. They have learned, sometimes the hard way, that not every invitation deserves a response. Not every project deserves their involvement. and not every relationship deserves their emotional investment. They set boundaries that are clear, unapologetic, and firm. These boundaries are not walls built out of fear, but doors they control, opening and closing them with wisdom and intention. They are not afraid to disappoint others, if it means remaining true to themselves. They understand that people-pleasing is a silent thief, stealing precious time under the disguise of kindness. They have replaced the instinct to say yes with the courage to say no, not out of coldness, but out of a deep respect for their purpose. They know that every time they say no to something that does not serve them, they are saying yes to their future, their peace, their power. Protecting their time also means being selective about their environment. They are careful about the conversations they engage in, the energy they absorb, and the company they keep. They do not linger where gossip grows, where negativity is celebrated, or where small minds try to shrink big dreams. They intentionally create spaces around them that nurture their growth, that respect their ambition, that honor their journey. Boundaries are not just something they set with others, they set them with themselves too. They manage their own distractions. They recognize when procrastination disguises itself as productivity. They stay disciplined about what matters most. They know that being busy is not the same as being effective, and that the most successful days are not always the most crowded ones. Sometimes the smartest thing they do is pause, rest, breathe, and realign. Their calendars reflect their priorities, not their obligations. Their schedules are not filled with things to prove their worth. They are filled with things that build their worth. Meetings, relationships, projects, all are chosen with care. Time is not just spent, it is invested. And every investment is made with an eye on the future they are crafting. Smart women have realized that boundary setting is an act of self-respect, and self-respect is the foundation for any meaningful success. They are not afraid of being called selfish, difficult, or too ambitious. They know those labels are often thrown by people who benefit from blurred lines. They remain unshaken, knowing that protecting their energy is not a betrayal of others, it is a commitment to themselves. And when life inevitably pulls at their attention, as it sometimes will, they are quick to recalibrate. They are not rigid, but they are rooted. They know when to be flexible and when to stand their ground. They lead their lives with intention, refusing to let the urgent things crowd out the important ones. It is not about how much they get done, but about how deeply they live. By fiercely protecting their time and setting strong boundaries, they create lives that are not only successful, but deeply, authentically theirs. Smart women have learned that waiting for the perfect moment is a trap. Perfection is a moving target, always just out of reach. And those who chase it often find themselves stuck in endless preparation without progress. Instead, they choose action. They choose to move even when the path isn't completely clear. They understand that momentum is a powerful force, and the only way to build it is by starting before they feel fully ready. They value progress over perfection because they know that the real learning happens in the doing. Books, plans, and strategies are important, but nothing teaches like experience. Every step forward, even a small and uncertain one, creates feedback. It shows them what works, what doesn't, and what needs to be adjusted. They trust the process more than they trust the illusion of flawlessness. They don't let fear of making mistakes keep them frozen in place. Mistakes are not failures to them. They are essential parts of growth, necessary markers on the journey to excellence. Taking action is not about being reckless. It's about being brave. It's about stepping into situations knowing that imperfection is inevitable, but that stagnation is a greater risk. They would rather try and learn than wait and wonder. They would rather face the discomfort of a lesson than the regret of never having begun. Action gives them clarity, while perfectionism only gives them more reasons to delay. Smart women are not immune to doubt or fear. They feel it like everyone else, but they refuse to let those emotions dictate their choices. They know that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite it. They set goals, they make plans, but they don't become prisoners of their own expectations. If a path they chose doesn't lead exactly where they hoped, they adjust their course without shame. Flexibility, not perfection, is what keeps them alive and thriving in a constantly changing world. They also recognize that perfectionism often masks deeper insecurities, the fear of judgment, the fear of not being good enough. By choosing action, they confront those fears head on. They prove to themselves that worth is not found in flawless execution, but in persistent effort. Every time they show up, every time they put their work into the world, even when it's imperfect, they build a deeper, unshakable confidence in their ability to navigate whatever comes next. Moving forward also means accepting that not everyone will understand or applaud their journey. Smart women don't wait for universal approval before they act. They are grounded in their own purpose, fueled by their own vision. They trust that those meant to walk with them will find them, and those who don't will simply fall away. Their commitment is not to pleasing others, but to fulfilling their own potential. In a world that often glorifies flawless images and perfect stories, smart women choose a different path. They choose the messy, beautiful, unpredictable road of action. They show up when it's hard, when it's inconvenient, when the outcome is uncertain. And because they do, they build a life that is rich with experience, resilience, and real achievement. Every step they take, no matter how imperfect, carries them closer to the life they envision. They are not interested in living in theory. They are here to live in reality, bold, brave, and beautifully imperfect. And by valuing action over perfection, they don't just keep moving forward, they build a momentum so powerful that nothing can hold them back. They lift others up because they remember the moments when someone believed in them, when a kind word or an open door changed the course of their journey. They know how much impact encouragement can have, how it can breathe life into dreams that are still fragile and new. Instead of guarding their knowledge or opportunities, they extend a hand, they mentor, they support, they champion the efforts of others without worrying that it will somehow diminish their own achievement. Choosing collaboration means they are confident enough in their own abilities to celebrate others without envy. They do not measure their worth by comparing it to someone else's. They do not feel threatened when they see another woman shining. Instead, they see it as proof that it's possible, a reminder that success multiplies when it is shared. They cheer loudly, they show up, they celebrate wins that aren't their own because they know that true leadership means building a community, not a throne. When smart women collaborate, they create something larger than themselves. Ideas grow bigger, creativity flows faster, innovation becomes inevitable. They listen with respect, they share openly, they trust the brilliance of others just as much as they trust their own. They know that working together does not mean losing individuality. It means combining strengths to create something extraordinary. It means understanding that what we can accomplish together will always outweigh what we can achieve alone. They are strategic about who they align with, choosing collaborators who share values, vision, and integrity. They don't waste energy on toxic competition, on environments where scarcity and insecurity dominate. They walk away from spaces that pit women against each other for the scraps left at the table. Instead, they build new tables where everyone has a seat, where respect is the price of admission, and where contribution is valued more than ego. Their commitment to lifting others up is not performative. It is woven into how they lead, how they build businesses, how they form friendships. They are not just chasing personal success, they are building ecosystems where others can thrive too. They mentor young women without expecting anything in return. They share opportunities, even when no one is watching. They understand that legacy is not just about personal accolades. It's about how many lives they touched, how many doors they helped open. Choosing collaboration over competition doesn't mean they are naive. They are sharp enough to see when someone tries to take advantage, strong enough to enforce boundaries when necessary. They know the difference between collaboration and exploitation, but they never let bad experiences harden them or make them cynical. They stay open-hearted and wise, believing that the risk of vulnerability is worth the rewards of true connection. In every decision, every partnership, every relationship, they choose generosity over jealousy. They choose to build bridges instead of barriers. They choose to make their success a rising tide that lifts everyone around them. And by doing so, they create more than just personal achievements. They create movements, they create change, they create futures where more women believe it is possible because they saw someone who went first and then turned around to light the path for others. Smart women do not wait for the world to grant them permission to grow. They understand that if they wait for approval, they might be waiting forever. Instead, they choose themselves. They invest time, energy, and resources into their own development because they know that no one else will fight for their dreams the way they will. They see growth not as a luxury, but as a responsibility, a daily commitment to becoming the best version of themselves, whether anyone else is watching or not. They read the books, take the courses, seek out mentors, and put themselves in rooms that stretch their thinking. They refuse to settle into comfort zones that offer praise but no real challenge. Growth is not something they stumble into by accident. It is something they pursue relentlessly and intentionally. They are willing to be beginners again and again because they understand that mastery comes from humility and consistent effort, not from clinging to what they already know. Choosing themselves means they don't shrink when others doubt them. They don't require a panel of judges to validate their worth or a crowd of cheerleaders to confirm their decisions. They make the brave choice to back themselves fully, even when it's lonely, even when it's misunderstood. They know that waiting for universal agreement is a trap that keeps too many people stuck in lives far smaller than the ones they are capable of living. Investing in their growth sometimes means making sacrifices that others don't see. It means late nights studying while friends are out celebrating. It means spending money on courses, coaching, or experiences that feed their future instead of buying things that only impress for a moment. It means having the discipline to prioritize long-term gains over short-term pleasures. They make these choices not because they have to, but because they choose to. Because they see their future as something worth betting on. Boy, smart women also know that real growth isn't just about skills and achievements. It's about emotional intelligence, resilience, and self-awareness. They invest in healing old wounds, breaking generational patterns, and developing the kind of strength that doesn't depend on external circumstances. They do the inner work that many avoid because they understand that true success is built from the inside out. A title, a paycheck, a trophy, these are only as solid as the foundation underneath them. And that foundation is built through self-trust, self-discipline, and self-love. Doing themselves doesn't mean they don't value support or community. It means they don't outsource their self-worth to anyone else. They appreciate encouragement when it comes, but they do not require it in order to move forward. They recognize that not everyone will understand their journey, and that's okay. They are not here to fit into other people's expectations. They are here to fulfill their own potential.